Good evening.
And Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Of course, it's the first one of the new year.
It is. Well, we're back. It's an evening recording. We've been playing music for about 6 hours.
Blimey.
We've both got an absolute pile of records on our laps, and we're just going to share what we've been listening to.
Yeah, but it might be a long one, this.
Might be a long one, so go and make...
Well, don't go and make yourself a cup of tea.
Pause
it and make yourself a cup of tea.
Yeah. Now, John, I hope you're going to be showing me the record with the most ringwear on.
No, I'm not going to be doing that.
I want to say big Happy New Year to all the VC community, and especially to Fred. If you're watching, Fred, it's been great to see your reappearance and real breath of fresh air. Michel Petrucciani. This is a Blue Note album called Music that I picked up yesterday from Hatters Hall in Faversham, and my only album with Michel, who is a virtuoso, or I should say was a virtuoso keyboard player. And this is a wonderful album that features Anthony Jackson on bass, Eddie Gomez as well, and Lenny White and Victor Jones on the drums. And Michel Petrucciani, as you can see, is somebody of very short stature and who I don't think was able to touch the piano volume controls, but didn't seem to stop him in any way. And some incredible, often quite sort of Latin tinged music, very kind of real fireworks.
Very aggressive player.
Amazingly percussive player. This album came out, I think, in the 80s, 89, and very happy to have it.
Next up, Thelonious Monk. This was a recording that was made available by the excellent Zeb Feldman back in a couple of years ago. Came out as a single LP, double LP, and also as a multi-CD set. And it's an archive recording of Thelonious Monk, and it's a soundtrack from a film called Les Liaisons Dangereuses. And it's with Charlie Rouse, Barney Willen, Sam Jones, and Art Taylor. And I played the track Light Blue, which is just a weird track, actually. It's got a very, very weird, it's almost like proto-hip-hop or something, with a very strange kind of drum pattern from...
Not swinging.
Not swinging at all, from Art Taylor. And the long version, the version which is on the CD, it's very funny because it has Thelonious trying to teach him this drum pattern. He just doesn't know how to do it at all.
It's kind of very angular music.
Very angular music. And it's a great album, this, actually. Really nicely put together, beautifully, kind of just great. Everything about it is lovely, actually. Getting hard to find now, actually. I was lucky to pick up a copy a few days ago.
Okay.
It was a very weird noise then.
That was a weird noise, but we're just going to ignore it and keep on, John. This is J.D. Beck and Domi, also on Blue Note, as my last selection was. This record came out this year. What was that thing that just fell on the floor, John?
CD. I need to pick up another CD, actually, from my box.
These two are amazing. Amazing pair of very talented musicians. J.D. Beck plays the drums and Domi is his partner and keyboard player. And they have a very distinctive style. He has an incredibly light touch, very, very lots of kind of beats on the snare. She's got a beautiful, very sort of lyrical, but also technically really sort of amazing keyboard player. Both incredibly young. I don't think they were even in their 20s yet. And there's some great collaborations, people like Herbie Hancock, Thundercat, Anderson .Paak, Busta Rhymes makes an appearance. Yeah, just really great music. Quite short tracks, but definitely sounding very, very fresh. Kind of in the Mono Neon kind of area for some reason. I think they've also played with them. But yeah, I really like this album.
Yeah, I had to go and get the CD, actually. I was listening to, watching an interview with Lewis Cole, where he was talking about some of his favourite drummers. Lewis Cole is a kind of big on the scene at the moment. And he mentioned very briefly the drummer Jim Black, and they flashed his picture up on the scene. But I think the guy he was interviewing didn't know who Jim Black was. But Jim Black still is playing around a lot now, but he also plays with Tim Byrne on this amazing record called Saturation Point. And there's a track on here called The Opener, which was, I think, listened to by a lot of drummers, because it kind of was how you play drum and bass style music live, but it was people assumed you couldn't play that kind of patterns. And Jim Black, if anybody's going to be able to do it, was him. This is a great album with Tim Byrne, Chris Speed, Michael Formanek, and Jim Black, and it's on Screw Gun. I think you can now download these records as well, but the original artwork on these is so beautiful. Actually, this was on. So Tim Byrne, Saturation Point. You're going to hear an amazing drum solo on the track called The Opener.
Lovely. Well, John's mention of drum and bass allowed me to slip in something from this album, which is called Squang Dangs in the Key of Vibes by an artist called Fox, who I think this album has come out of the Netherlands, but I believe Fox is from the UK. And there's all kinds of different collaborators, KSR, DRS, T-Man, BCAS. We listened to a track called Paperweights, and it's just quite a smooth, contemporary, jazzy drum and bass vibe.
Yeah, I'm not liking that noise. We'll find out what it means in a minute. I don't know, something reminded me of Massive Attack, and I played the track Karma Kona off the 12-inch single, but it's the Portishead mix of it, and it suddenly dawned on me where the sample came from, and it comes from Melody. I can't remember what it's called, actually. Serge Gainsbourg, Melody, whatever it's called. Come on, but you know what I mean if you know Serge Gainsbourg. And it's it's a great mix of this, actually, and really great remix. And it's one of the singles which came off Protection, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I should say that unusually for me and John for the evening session at this time, we are very straight, aren't we?
How do you mean very straight? Yes, we are.
We are. We're not.
Yeah,
we're just
not enhanced at all. I'm drinking herb tea.
Drinking herb tea. I'm not drinking anything at all at the moment. Ladies of the 80s, Roy Ayers' vehicle for some amazing female vocalists, which you probably have guessed, came out in the 80s. We all know the track Turned On To You. I don't know why Roy has quite such a prominent picture here. But we heard people like Sylvia Stripling, Susan Bobian, Marva D. Hicks, Vivian D. Prince, and Denny Corbett, and listened to a great track called Tell Him, which is kind of quite an up-tempo, jazzy groover with some wonderful vocal stylings. And picked up this album quite a few years back and have just recently rediscovered it. And also the imprint of Edwin Birdsong is felt throughout.
I think we can need to move get quicker, aren't we? I think actually, so we're going to have a very long session.
Well,
Peach Melba Moore, first album, I think, produced by the wonderful and ever-present Eugene McDaniels, who seems to be kind of more records you look at, the more you find him on as production on many things. Played the track called Sunshine Superman, which is of course a Donovan song, and singing backing vocals on it, which is how I heard about it, as Susanna and Wendy Melvoin when they were 9 years old. And it's a nice, great album actually, all through, kind of, as well as kind of up-tempo stuff. It's got a lot of ballads on it. It's definitely pre-disco, this one, actually. It's got a very nice sound to it. It came out in 1975. So Melba must have been very, very young. Very easy to pick up, definitely cheap heat.
Shout out to Lawrence Mellowman and for turning me on to Three Sinister Syllables, the Pro Celebrity Golf and Jay Glaze sort of CD hip-hop mixtape, I guess. Loads of breakbeats, samples, very quirky, lots of UK humour, and yeah, still just so much to enjoy. And thank you, Lawrence, for letting me know about this. Only available on CD.
Not a lot of music clearance on there,
I don't think there's any music clearance there.
And thinking of I was thinking of Des Parks, who sadly passed away. He was one of the compilers of this. What was the best ever? Somebody once said that actually the UK's good at one thing, and that's putting together compilations. And I think this was a classic example of it, actually. This was the first Rare compilation, which was put out pretty much while the Rare Groove thing was going on, actually, wasn't it?
Well, kind of was almost helped accelerate it.
Amazing range of tracks from Headhunters, Larry Young's Fuel, Bernard Wright, Weldon Irvin, Bobby Broom, which is a track I played, Linda Williams. Yeah, Really, really great selection. And all, in fact, there were three of them, I think, or maybe even four actually. And they're all great, actually.
Yeah.
And our rest in peace, Des Parks, who was a very
Absolutely.
nice guy as well, actually. He was very knowledgeable about the music.
Yeah. That sort of early 80s boogie vibe got me playing this on the 12-inch on the West End record label from New York. And it's Raw Silk, who most of you who are into this kind of music will know from the track Do It to the Music. But this is actually a track called Just in Time. And we listened to the Just in Time and Space dub mix produced by Nick Martinelli. And a wonderful groove, actually, really, really nice 12 that I picked up very cheap recently.
I'm not sure what the connection with this one. We maybe got out of sync, actually. But
Oh,
the next track up I played was from the John McLaughlin The Devotion album. And this is the one with the not so good cover, but the much, much better pressing, actually. And I played the two tracks that run into each other, Marbles and Siren. This was pretty much just pre-Mahavishnu. And it's John McLaughlin with Buddy Miles, Billy Rich on bass, and Larry Young on organ and electric piano. And it's a great, lots and lots of kind of phasing effects and some strange kind of drum sounds from Buddy Miles. But it's a great album. This actually, I haven't played it for a very, very long time. So what you want is this version for the sound, but the other one that's got a much better cover,
which is the one I've got.
Yeah.
I think we've got way out of sync, John, because somehow we've ended up with the Rolling Stones next.
Okay.
And we listened to the track called Monkey Man. And I mean, nothing much to say apart from this is one of their best albums, I think.
Definitely.
Let it bleed.
I think we are in sync, actually.
We're in sync.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Because then this is nothing to look at here because I went for a bootleg, basically, next one. But obviously, we very sadly lost Jeff Beck a few days ago. And I went to see him a couple of times. I saw him once in 1972 at the Paris studios of BBC with the late version of the Jeff Beck group, which was with Max Middleton, Clive Sharman on bass, and Cozy Powell on drums, and Bob Tench on vocals. And I played the great version of that night's music, which was the version of Ain't No Sunshine. And some great playing from Jeff Beck.
You're now going to hand to me, John.
Yeah, which I'm going to give to you.
Because I'm going to play to it on my Monday radio show. Thank you very much, John.
And a very good, it's a great, it's available in quite a lot of different forms, actually. Either you can get it on the usual sites or also on, I think it might be on a bootleg CD as well, actually. But it's a great recording.
Yeah, and I mean, just a few words about Jeff Beck. I mean, although not an artist that I have that many albums of, just sort of reflecting and listening to his actual playing and his level of innovation and soulful embodiment of the guitar, really. I mean, no one else really played like he played. His use of the whammy pedal and his ability to kind of coax screams to kind of purrs is really quite extraordinary. The real loss. I played something from this wonderful live album, one of the best, Bill Withers Live. We listened to the track I Can't Write Left-Handed, which is all about the Vietnam War, but sort of through the eyes of someone who's come back without their left hand, and Bill sort of imagining what they might be thinking. Just an amazing vibe, really, really nice. I think we had a break after that.
You had a break and came back with courtesy of your friend in Los Angeles. Thank you very much, Tony, who went into Sheep's Clothing record store on Fairfax and bought me a copy of this, basically like a live in the studio version of 4 of the tracks from the Blake Mills Pino Palladino album, with Sam Gentle playing it. It's a legit release. It came out via the record shop, and obviously the original came out in Impulse as well. And it's a great version of 4 tracks from what's it called, with notes attached, isn't it?
Notes with attachments.
Notes with attachments, that's right.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much. You can only really get it from the various other people are kind of scalping people by charging huge amounts of money for it, but you can get it for $25 plus whatever postage you need from LA. Mind you, postage from LA tends to be very, very expensive, but very nice version of it.
And these guys, I think, along with a couple of other artists, including actually Lewis Cole, are some of the people who are taking music forwards at the moment.
Definitely.
I feel. I think I shared this last session. I actually played the same bloody track, but it was only because Sam Gendel was on it. I played the track called Bitches, but I can't rate this or talk too much about this album. I think it's a fantastic record. One of the highlights of last year. It's Lewis Cole's quality over opinion. I know he's coming to tour in the UK in the spring. He does an incredible live show, so check him out.
Somebody, I think I might have showed this at a previous session, or maybe not.
I don't think you have, John.
But Rob Mazurek, who's in a way the kind of he's the kind of almost like the father figure to the Chicago scene, but also he relates very strongly to what's going on in LA at the moment. And this is one of the records by his Exploding Star Orchestra, which is on International Anthem, and that includes just about everybody really on the scene. Damon Locks, Nicole Mitchell, Temeka Reed, Joel Ross, Jeff Parker, Jamie Branch, Angelica Sanchez, Ingeborg Harker-Flaten. Yeah, everybody on here. And I think he put this together during lockdown by everybody basically sending in their individual contributions, and he edited it into what is an incredibly coherent kind of whole. And of course, you've got the usual beautiful International Anthem kind of production. I mean, great sound, great pressing, and also just beautiful covers, really, all for what in the UK was £15, which is kind of ridiculously cheap.
Unbelievable. We kept the International Anthem theme up with this Jeff Parker album, who featured on the previous one. And this is called The New Breed. And we listened to a wonderful track which features, I imagine, his sister. I don't know who Ruby Parker is.
I think it is his sister, yeah.
We listened to a track called Cliche, the last track on side 2. Very fresh.
Staying with Jeff Parker, this was by miles, absolutely miles, my record of last year, which is the recording with Jay Bellerose, Jeff Parker, Josh Johnson, and also Anna Butters, which is the double album, 4 long tracks recorded on a regular gig that they have at a bar in Los Angeles, and it kind of slowly, I can't recommend this album highly enough, actually. Slowly unfolding music, nobody's showing off, kind of very, very much a kind of group sound. Played the track off this, which is called 2019-05-19, which is what they all call. They just have the date on them.
Yeah. Just
for me, it's just the kind of music I want to hear at the moment.
Absolutely.
Actually. And for me, by miles, record of the year.
Oh, well, it's definitely in the race for me. Okay. I think, well, we listened to a whole side, didn't we, John?
We did, yeah.
We were all zoning out. We were. Yeah. So I needed to bring
things. The Herb Tea was kicking in.
The Herb Tea was kicking in. I needed to kick us back into life. So we listened to a 1995 sort of jazzy house track by a band called Seventh Movement. And we listened to a track called Odyssey. And it was the sort of dub version. And it brought us back to life. Definitely. On the Boyzone record label.
And we started going, this is when things started getting a bit random, actually. Then went for The Temptation, Skies of Liberty. I usually play off this album either Just My Imagination or
Smiling
Faces. But recently played Love Can Be Anything, which is just a very intense, very long track.
It is. With
the band just having a great time, I think, actually on it, and just feeling like they're really having just a real play, and just very unusual for a Motown record, really. Actually,
a beat as far away from a traditional Motown beat as you could get.
And I mean, this whole run of Norman Whitfield produced Temptations records are just all great. Actually,
yeah.
So they all have really, really, really bad covers as well.
Yes. This was more of a traditional Motown 60s album. This is Diana Ross and the Supremes together with the Temptations, and a rather charming version of the band's The Wait. This picked up from my local record market store for about £1 a few weeks back, but actually a nice find. It sounded great.
Definitely one of the best Temptations albums. And then we kind of started to pay a bit of a tribute to Tom Bell, who obviously passed away since we did the last session. Play the track Pieces off this one, Round 2, which is, I think, my favorite of the Stylistics albums, actually. It's also got Children of the Night on there and some great tunes on there. Make Up to Break Up. And yeah, and you can't beat Tom Bell and Linda Creed, really, and that's them. And Pieces is an up-tempo track. It's quite an unusual one but one that kind of I always really, really like.
Well, I never thought I would be sharing this artist on a VC vinyl sharing session, but Johnny Mathis, here he is. He's appeared at last. And he's appeared because this album, which is called I'm Coming Home, has got Tom Bell all over it. Every track is written by Tom Bell and Linda Creed. He arranges, conducts, orchestrates, and it's actually a fantastic album. I think Johnny Mathis was wanting to reconnect with a younger crowd, having probably been doing rather a lot of Las Vegas residences, and got together with Tom Bell, who was definitely a flavor of the moment. And it's actually a great album. We listened to first track on side 2, which is called Life is a Song Worth Singing. Epic orchestration and a really Johnny Mathis-like groove.
So it also sounds like they had a big budget for it as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of people playing on it. Move from Johnny Mathis to Frank Zappa, which is kind of not a usual segue, I don't think. But just because this and Waka Jawaka and Grand Wazoo have both been reissued as part of the amazing box set, which I didn't bring with me actually, of material, but also singly as a vinyl release. So this is an original pressing on rather than the re-release, and just played Waka Jawaka off this, and they're two of my favorite Frank Zappa albums, actually, both mostly instrumental but not exclusively instrumental, and just sounding great actually. I mean, if the new mastering from Bernie Grunman sounds as good as the original, it's going to be definitely highly recommended. If you don't have this album, I'd definitely pick up the remaster that's around.
Yeah, excellent work. George Duke made another appearance, Faces in Reflection. John and I both agreeing this was possibly our favorite George Duke album, and a great introduction for anybody who doesn't know his work. Alongside the incredible Ndugu on drums and John Hurd on bass, and we listened to the track called Psychochromatic Dung.
We all have that problem sometimes. I think this was next, which was the album by Jack DeJohnette's New Directions, which is an ongoing project for him. This was the first kind of lineup he had with this group, with Jack on drums. Also plays a lot of piano on this record as well, he's a great piano player. John Abercrombie on guitar, Lester Bowie on trumpet from Art Ensemble Chicago, and Eddie Gomez on bass, and played the very, very, very kind of bayou flavored Bayou Fever, definitely in a swampy kind of feel to it as well. The album's really, I saw this band once in London and they were fantastic, actually. Really, really huge sound for 4 musicians, basically, but no keyboards, except when Jack plays piano, obviously.
Very fresh sounding.
Very fresh sounding. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Sort of almost ambient guitar textures from John Abercrombie were particularly standing out to me.
There's a live album with this same line as well. Although I think the studio album just prefer it just about, I think, actually. But yeah.
And just really enjoying the kind of open way that Jack DeJohnette plays the drum kit. Not particularly adhering to the click track, I feel.
Definitely
not. Well, this is a Mojo dance floor jazz compilation. We actually played a track by the band Odyssey, not the band that we know as Odyssey, as in going back to my roots, but another Odyssey that I need to explore who the hell they are. And a track that says it's credited to CLR James, which maybe it must be. Our lives are shaped by what we live. Beautiful track.
The words are definitely by CLR James. Yeah.
Reminiscent of a sort of very jazzy version of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah, which was kind of a very vague prompt for me to get out the Byrds Untitled album But I got the CD version out because I wanted to play the CD version of Lover of the Bayou. And just remind, I was chatting with somebody on Instagram, I can't remember who it was actually, just remembering what an incredible, powerful band the lineup with Clarence White was, and what a fantastic guitarist he was as well. Very different sound to the earlier, not jingly jangly stuff at all. Really, really, really good band. And that was the last lineup with Gene Parsons on drums and Skip Battin on bass. And yeah, fantastic. And check out, if you don't know Clarence White's guitar playing, check it out because he's an amazing player. I remember when I saw them in London, the whole of the front row of the audience was filled with Eric Clapton and you know, all of the guitarists at the time, Jimmy Page. They were all there watching him play.
Probably the reggae album of the year would be the Horace Andy album, which was I think Midnight Rockers. This is the dub companion piece called Midnight Scorchers, both produced by the mighty Adrian Sherwood, and we listened to a track called Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City that featured some wonderful cello string work. It's a really refreshing, contemporary, sort of relevant dub album from a real reggae veteran legend, Horace Andy, who's still sounding sweet.
Who did the original version of Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City? It's definitely, I mean, it's a soul tune, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a question for the comments.
Yeah, comments. Reply, please. I think it's at the right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember who it is. Anyway, from Horace Andy to Black Uhuru, and played the title track off the Sensimedia album, which I think was the second of the Island albums that they did, which got them in front of a huge. They were massive in the UK and quite big in the States as well, I think, actually. And yeah, just classic Sly and Robbie material. I'm just thinking, sadly, not hearing a lot from Sly at the moment, which is maybe understandable as his partner's no longer with us, but definitely missed, I think.
I've discovered this little record label called Hornin Sounds, who I think are based in France, and they've got some great sevens for you to pick up. This is a reggae version of the war classic Slipping into Darkness, and it's credited to Carl Burt and the Cimarrons. And the Cimarrons, a real vintage UK reggae lineup who were around for many, many years. And yeah, just a really nice seven.
Well, they were around before the boom, really, weren't they? Actually,
yeah,
they were
absolutely.
Really at all. And so moving on from reggae, but moving kind of, I guess, within the same diaspora in a strange kind of way to Ethiopia, played a track off the amazing record by Mariam Jibru, she's a Ethiopian nun she wasn't a nun when she made some of this music, but she became a nun. Piano, kind of self-taught piano player, wonderful kind of unusual style, kind of very flowing style. And I remember picking up one of the Ethiopic series of CDs, and I think it was number 11, I think was her one, and just loving the music, and very pleased to see it came out on vinyl. Then it was a really bad pressing, and now it's been repressed on vinyl, and it's even worse pressing. Just that, so this is going back to the shop on Monday, but hopefully at some point we'll get some decent pressings of her music. But she's an amazing musician, actually. And I think there's a documentary coming about her soon as well, but she's such an unusual kind of character.
Well, it put me in mind to play something that was in a similar kind of vibe feel. It's the Moonglows and a track that we all know and love called Blue Velvet.
That's gorgeous, yeah.
Really sounded wonderful. Both those last two bits of music had that real ethereal quality. This is just a cheap comp that I picked up from Chess.
And then as a final, really, tribute to Jeff Beck, played a track off Stevie Wonder's Talking Book, the amazing Looking for Another Pure Love, where he plays a gorgeous little, very short but beautiful guitar solo on it as well.
I'm so impressed at the quality of this.
I know, it just sounded amazing.
It's shiny. Mine doesn't look anything like as nice as that. Sounded wonderful.
I think
what an album.
Whether it's actually an original pressing or not, I bought it a very long time ago.
It's great. Brilliant. And then we listened to track 3 of In Rainbows. It's one of the most frustrating sort of CD covers. I can't work out what anything is, but all I can say, it was track 3. It's absolutely gorgeous. Really wonderful Radiohead album. Amazing production.
Then went for a track called Learning off, is it Learning or Leaning? I can never, Leaning off Joe Henry's album Tiny Voices, which is one of the, I love Joe Henry. He's a great songwriter, singer, but also an amazing producer as well. And this is, I think, my favorite of his records. Unfortunately, so many of them are not on vinyl. They were all released during the period where really a lot of music, and I think this is a real problem actually. A lot of great music was released during the CD era actually, which we're just not getting on vinyl anymore. And because of that, the music's kind of ignored, I think. And this is a wonderful record. Great players on it, great songs, and all of his music is just fantastic, actually. So Joe Henry, Tiny Voices, pick it up. Get it from.
One of my best and surprise Christmas presents from my cousin was a beautiful 3/4 size Martin acoustic guitar, and it's prompted me to dig back into many John Martin, Nick Drake tracks and get into kind of different tunings and just learn the songs. One of the ones that I've been loving recently is Things Behind the Sun from the absolute classic album from Nick Drake, Pink Moon. And really, as John said, once you've played, well, there's nowhere to go after this, really. Yeah. It was the end of the session. It's the end of our session. If you've made it all the way through, congratulations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I hope it's the year of the rabbit.
It is, which seems to be good news in China.
It's good. Well, I hope it's good news for all of us.
We could do with some.
Keep sharing the love. Keep listening to the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vibe with us in the comments if you want. Listen to our radio shows.
Very good, much so. Yeah.
I mean, I've got 300 to listen back to.
Yeah.
Links below, and see you later.
Yeah. Take care.